Good morning and welcome to a Saturday morning special with Luke from Simbox. Morning, Luke. You all right, mate?
Yeah, good morning, Joel. Thanks for having me on, mate. How's things?
Yeah, no, honestly, mate, well, bizarre, to be perfectly honest. It's a funny situation, but before we get into the Fury, Joshua, Usyk, Wilder, Love Square, we're going to... oh, mate, he knows. He knows. He's nicking my punchline. See, right, have some of this.
Are you ready?
So welcome to JG's Fight Talk, sponsored by Richie's Boxing and Limitless Creations. And with me, Luke from Simbox. If you haven't subscribed to his channel, go over to YouTube and hit the subscribe button on Simbox. Top guy, great content. And yeah, he's doing better than I am. So don't subscribe too much.
Yeah, Joel, you're doing a good job yourself, mate. Rolling the same.
Right. And we've got Gail already. Hi, guys. She's flying well as well. She's got a great channel. So, yeah, just a great boxing community, to be honest. Yeah, there's not many mugs in the boxing podcast and YouTube world. So, yeah, get behind the community that's going. So, yeah, what a funny old time, Luke. We were all buzzing. Everything was announced. Fury, Joshua. I know how much of a fan you are, and we were all looking forward to it, ready to go. 14th of August, next minute, arbitration. It happens all in the fight. We knew that it was kind of, well, we weren't sure what had happened with it, whether it had dissolved or there was no news. Next minute, Wilder's won the case. He's back in straight away. How do you see it?
For me, Joel, I think it's such a bitter pill to swallow simply because of how close we was to seemingly what was going to be an official announcement. We had Eddie Hearn. He was constantly positive about it. Bob Arum and Frank Warren was umming and ahhing. And the fact that Tyson Fury put that little selfie video out and he said, he's just off the phone to one of the princes out in Saudi Arabia. They've confirmed the fight. They've confirmed the purse is there. They're going to get paid what they said they're going to get paid. It just felt like literally a matter of hours. We've gone from a matter of weeks and months. And for so long, Eddie Hearn was saying it was going to be in 2 weeks and 2 weeks and 2 weeks, and nothing came of it. But that moment, we actually felt like, okay, within the next couple of days, we're going to get a fight poster, an official date, a confirmation, and everything. And lo and behold, is it Chris McKenna, the journalist? He broke the news of Deontay Wilder winning at the Court of Arbitration, and he gets his trilogy fight. And that's why it's such a bitter pill for me to swallow, is the fact that it come at last minute, right when we felt like we'd finally got what we'd been waiting so long for.
It was a real sucker punch because everyone was gathering momentum, weren't they? And like all my mates were going, oh, so it's finally going to happen, what a fight, and you just think, well, yeah, Fury announced it the day after Wilder pretty much announces it. Do you know what I mean? And don't get me wrong, the fights we're going to see off the back of this are great fights. They're not that fight, but they're great fights. So because I think the WBO have basically said, I think it's coming pretty much to the end of the 48 hours now that, they've turned around and said, look, Joshua, you've got your WBO to defend against Usyk. You've got to sort that out. And it sounds like Fury Wilder is pretty much going ahead, isn't it? 24th of July in Vegas, I think. So, which was already booked in a random style of things. Bob Arum, yeah, it's already booked. Don't worry about it. Okay, yeah. Random.
All seems very convenient that it was July 24th. It was like already the venue, the date, the time. The purse splits was already in the contract. We've gone on to find out now. So it's 60-40 in favor of Fury. So the second fight was a 50-50 split, and then the trilogy fight was 60-40 in favor of the winner. Of course, Tyson Fury went in there and won. I think for me, Joel, I don't understand why we've not seen this trilogy fight happen already. Rather than trying to duck and dodge and avoid the trilogy fight, which I don't think Tyson Fury. I don't think it's Tyson Fury that's tried avoiding the fight. I think he's 100% confident that he'll go in there and he'll do the job again. Maybe from a business perspective, maybe Frank Warren or Bob Arum or Fury's advisors have looked at the trilogy fight with Wilder as a potential banana skin that doesn't make business sense. If we can get around that and we can get to the undisputed fight with Anthony Joshua, which is such a much more financially engrossing fight, that they will do that. I think Fury would fight Wilder and would have fought him by now, or I'd like to think so. So I think it could all have been avoided. We're in May of 2021, and we had Tyson Fury and Anthony Joshua and Eddie Hearn and everybody else confirmed that there was a 2-fight deal in place with Joshua and Fury in June of 2020 in the middle of the pandemic. You would have thought that this contract clause, this issue, this major speed bump could have been ironed out in some way, shape, or form before now. But to get Tyson Fury, Anthony Joshua, Eddie Hearn all on the same page, and then the very next day, the news of Deontay Wilder at the court of arbitration breaks, as you say, the very next day. It's very bizarre, and it's boxing, I guess. It's modern day boxing. It's a soap opera. It's for the want of a better term, it's bullshit at times, man, and it's frustrating.
I think that's probably the best description I've had, to be honest. But it's a strange one, because you think allegedly they've offered Wilder, they offered him money to step aside. We're not particularly sure how much that was, but that we were told by Fury, wanted 20 million to step aside. And then in other news, he was never going to step aside. So there's a lot of this up and down, but in my eyes, Fury Wilder goes ahead, which we know it's going to happen now. Wilder beats Fury, potentially. And then we've got AJ versus Wilder. And it's like, but that doesn't entice me as much as AJ Fury.
Well, let's throw another curveball in there. What if Wilder beats Fury, Usyk beats Joshua, and it's Wilder versus Usyk for all the marbles? That's not a million miles away from happening.
Yeah, and then but then would you still want to see AJ Fury?
Yeah, that's a score that still needs to be settled. And, I'm going to disagree with you slightly there, Joel, in the fact that I still want to see AJ Wilder. And I think that we need to, throw back to the old days where taking a loss doesn't matter. You can still get big fights. Yeah. Because if we go back to 2017, Wilder and Joshua was all the rage. That was going to be the big fight, 2 undefeated heavyweight champions. And I think they went over 400 days combined as champions without ever really entering into negotiations to fight each other. But the fact that Joshua lost to Ruiz and Wilder lost to Fury, it does take a little bit of the gloss off it, because it's not an undisputed fight with 2 undefeated champions, similar to how we've got Josh Taylor Ramirez later on tonight. But it's still a great fight. And I think if we take away the desire for the undefeated streaks to be such a big part of fights, look at Manny Pacquiao against Errol Spence. Manny Pacquiao's got six losses on his record, and he's still looked at as an all-time great. Muhammad Ali, 6 losses on his record. Roy Jones, Mike Tyson, these guys lost and were still in great fights. So, yeah, I think Wilder Joshua is still a great fight. Of course, as British boxing fans, the fight to be made is Fury Joshua, Joshua Fury, whichever way you want to put it around. And to say we've gone from expecting 2 fights in 2021 to now potentially 0 fights is very difficult to accept. And it kind of turns you off from boxing a little bit.
Can you imagine there being a rematch clause if Fury loses?
No,
and then it just goes on, doesn't it?
Yeah, it's absolutely bizarre. But there needs to be a point when, there's a line drawn in the sand. Yeah, because if Wilder wins, logic suggests that there should be a rubber fight, and God forbid that 4th fight was in a draw. We're going way off on a tangent here, but this will be the never-ending story.
But you don't know, do you? This is the mad world. Like we were saying, this is the mad world of boxing. When does it actually stop? Fury's now putting it on the line against Wilder. Is it all sewn into that trilogy contract as such from the original deal that whoever wins this fight, that's it. It's done. The trilogy's done.
Yeah,
we move on, sort of thing. So, yeah, it's like you say. Don't get me wrong. I'd love to see AJ Fury's the biggest fight in heavyweight boxing for me, but that's as a Brit as well. But don't get me wrong, Fury Wilder 3, I'll still watch it, and it'll still be an amazing thing. hopefully, like from our point of view, we just hope that Fury gets through it and we get to see we get to see that big fight. But on the other hand, we've also been sort of blessed with another big fight, AJ Usyk, potentially around the same sort of time, hopefully. August 14th, they're still going for, I think. That's going to be an interesting one. And before we have a chat about that, we obviously had this from Usyk the other day. It will jump over the top of us, but I'm not very professional. So yeah, have a look at this.
Hi Eddie, I want money, more money.
What an absolute character! He's absolutely superb, and we spoke off camera about this, and I just think Alexander Usyk is the consummate professional. He's chasing the fight with Joshua, and he knows he's going in there as the naturally smaller man. He's giving away so much in terms of reach, power, size, but he just wants to test himself against the very best. And he knew when to step aside to allow a bigger fight to happen, but he's not naive enough to not grasp his opportunity with both hands. And he's the danger man for sure. I personally have written him off without thinking about it. But then when you kind of, sit down and put your mind to it and think, this is a banana skin, like a very extreme banana skin front of Joshua.
But you think even, you look at the other side of it, he stepped aside to let this fight happen, but he also took a big fight with Joe Joyce. Like that was going to be the fight, wasn't it? And he was happy to take it if he couldn't have this. To be fair, every time I look at Usyk, I just laugh at the moment, because when you've been looking at some of the pictures he's been putting out, it's almost like some sort of 80s porn star going on. And
he's a great character.
Yeah, he's a nutter, to be honest, isn't he? But yeah, if you look at what the money that Fury was going to get, you've got another undefeated guy who's come up from the cruiserweight, and he was kind of promised, this is where you're heading. What should he be earning, Luke? If you look at Fury was being offered 75 million plus, should we say? It was whether there were all sorts of figures, weren't there? 75 to 100 million per fighter. Where does Usyk sit in that? Surely he should be saying, well, if he's been offered that, the money's there. Where's my money?
Yeah, I think if Fury was getting 75 million to fight Joshua in an undisputed fight between two Brits out in Saudi Arabia, I think that 75 million, you could divide it by 10 and you'd still be looking at like more than what Usyk will get. I think, with all due respect, Usyk is a name to us as boxing fans, to hardcore boxing fans. They'll know who Usyk is as an undisputed champion at cruiserweight. He's stepped up. He's beat Derek Chisora. But aside from that Chisora fight, there's not going to be too much by way of, if you like, for the want of a better term, casual boxing fans' knowledge. So he won't bring in the same money. He won't drive the same numbers as Joshua. Yeah. So I don't think...
Like Dale saying, the belt, isn't it? It's the belt. It's like everyone's saying, it's all the marbles, isn't it? But you can't deny the guy. You think there's got to be money there. There's got to be money there. He's putting his O on the line as well. And it's we've got other people coming in. One in a million. That's a different one. Fury Wilder is a much better fight than Joshua.
For Fury, is that?
Yeah, Fury Wilder is much better fight than Joshua. Agree or disagree?
Massively disagree. Fury Joshua is a much more engrossing fight, and a much more it'll divide opinion. Like we could put a poll out, and I guarantee 80% of people will say that Fury beats Wilder again. You put a poll out for Fury Joshua, and you're looking at 50-50.
We'll put the poll out after this, and we'll say who's the bigger opponent for Fury. Is it Wilder or Joshua? And we'll stick Usyk in there as well. See what people think, because Usyk could be just as slick against Fury because of that. Don't get me wrong, the size factor is what Fury holds, and that's his key, isn't it? But Usyk, as a boxer, he's slick as anything, and he was the boxing man in the cruiserweight. So that could be an interesting one. You know, it's seeing how Usyk comes into this fight weight wise, because he's put on the weight now, isn't he? He's bulked up. Let's see how he gets on. But
you know, I just want to go back to Joel. Like I meant to mention it when we was actually talking about the Wilder Fury situation. The one thing that I have been like banging the drum about, and there's a lot of people that don't really know what they're talking about, or you know, they might be misinformed, or they've not really read into the story too much. But I think, you know, hats need to be taken off to Deontay Wilder for not taking the step aside money. You know, to be beaten so badly in that second fight with Tyson Fury, and to fight his way to getting this trilogy fight made with or without the WBC title, because from what I'm led to believe, it's a trilogy fight with Fury regardless of the belt. So the fact that he's not took step aside money, that he wants to get in there and you know, prove himself right, that it was, you know, a bad night at the office and that he can beat Fury. Whether or not he does, you know, I do, like I say, I think Fury's a heavy favourite going back in. But in a day and age where boxing is governed by money and which fights make the most money, and that's why we've got Mayweather against Logan Paul on pay-per-view on Sky Sports, and we've got Josh Taylor against Jose Ramirez on a streaming service. The sport's governed by money, and in that day and age, to see somebody like Deontay Wilder, who's not short of a few quid, he's going after the glory, he's chasing redemption, and I think he needs to be commended for that.
Yeah, I completely agree with you. I completely agree. But then you'll get the other people that turn around and go, he made loads of excuses. And that is the other side that we see, isn't it? Look, we're not blind to that. He made a lot of
himself in a position to see, like, you know, well, yeah, you know what? Fair enough. Like the excuses were there or they weren't there. It was all bullshit. Of course, we know about the loaded gloves, the water, Mark Brayland. We know it was all bullshit. But he's willing to, you know, step aside from 20 million to get in there and prove his story, whether we believe it or not. He's backing himself to get in there and say, you know what, I'm going to right that wrong and watch me, like, you know, laugh in the face of all the haters. Again, I still think Fury beats him in a third fight, but the fact that he's willing to go in there and risk it all should be commended. And yeah, I think it's a great fight. I think it's a very intriguing fight, but it's not the fight that we wanted as British boxing fans.
No. And to be fair, what's he going to earn if he's been offered to step aside for 20 million? What's he going to earn in that third fight? That's what you got to look at as well. Even if he goes down, he gets beaten up, look at what he's going to earn. So, you know, and it's for what people describe as the ultimate strap, you know, the WBC. So
we said earlier on about, you know, this is not at the feet of Wilder, it's not at the feet of Joshua, or maybe not even the feet of Fury, that this contract clause was there. Let's not get away from that fact that they've had so long to iron this out. And we mentioned earlier on that when Ruiz beat Joshua back in June 2019, that there was an automatic rematch clause in that contract. Eddie Hearn's brilliant at these automatic rematch clauses. Look at White, for instance, and he had one in there for Ruiz, Joshua. And then over the summer, we had murmurings that Ruiz was going to try and keep the belts in-house and that the PBC was going to have the undisputed fight because Wilder was the WBC champion in the summer of 2019. But because of that ironclad contract rematch clause, he had to fight Joshua again before he even thought about going anywhere else. Imagine us as British boxing fans if we had seen Ruiz step away from that rematch clause and go into a Wilder fight for the undisputed titles. And he gave up on that contract. There'd be lawsuits, there'd be suing, there'd be everything. But now we're blaming Wilder for keeping what's rightfully his in the contract. Like it decided Fury and it said, you know, don't worry about this contract clause, we'll get it sorted. They're to blame, not Wilder, not Joshua, not Fury. Whoever's decided that huge speed bump, that huge obstacle could be like sidestepped. That wasn't the case, and clearly never was the case. I don't know how they felt it was getting around that. And if we had been on the side of Wilder, had it been Joshua Ruiz, they would have been uproar. So I completely agree where Wilder's coming from.
Yeah, I 100% get it. I think it's just because we had it. We had it. We had it there. And then the next minute, I was just gone. No, and that was the thing. It's like giving something to a child and then going, here, have this, and then I go, oh, thank you. No, and
I agree with him for doing it. We shouldn't have been allowed to put Fury, Joshua.
We shouldn't have got to that point.
We shouldn't believe that the fight was that close. Wilder's swooped in at the last minute, I guess, before this fight actually did happen. But again, he can't be blamed for it. He's claiming what's his like contractual right, and he's obligated to a third fight. And
Luke, I'm going to chuck it at you.
Yeah.
I'm going to get your predictions early.
Early doors.
Early doors.
These are liable to change.
We'll look back at this video when we've both changed our minds. Fury versus Wilder, 24th of July, Las Vegas. How do you see it?
Right, my early prediction.
He doesn't want to say it.
No, I'm happy to give you my prediction. I think that the second fight was that one-sided that you can't see past another Fury victory.
Yeah.
But my prediction is going to be like Fury to be dropped, to get up, and to stop Wilder.
Wow. Okay. Yeah. I think Fury will get the job done again. I think it's one of those where he's got his number. I think he had his number in the first fight. He completely outboxed him in the first fight. If it wasn't for that knockdown in the last round, then Fury would have won it. There's no doubt. That was just the thing that turned the judges' heads almost, and it was in his back garden. Where, here, I think Fury, after the second fight, Fury battered him. There's no other way to describe it.
That's it. That one-sided. It was that one-sided. It'd be naive to say that it wouldn't happen again, because in the first fight, Wilder, simply off the delay, the time away from the sport that Fury had, he was in such terrible shape, and he was losing weight, but he worked at 100% in that first Wilder fight. So I thought he was going to get knocked out then. And then in the second fight, I just thought, there's no way anybody goes 12 rounds without getting tagged. He got tagged in the first fight, he'll get tagged again. And he proved me completely wrong. And I have no issues with eating humble pie. But I won't be backing against Fury a third time. So that's why I'm going Fury in the trilogy fight.
Definitely, mate. Definitely. And, well, AJ Usyk, let us know in the comments as well. AJ Usyk, potentially around the same sort of date as the 14th of August. I would have thought, because they'll want to get that at a similar time to the other fight, because then they can just run ahead. Going well. All going well. They can just run ahead and get it done. Gale's coming. AJ knockout.
Yeah, I think, with Joshua Usyk, I think a good big one always beats a good little one, and that's exactly what we're going to see here. I think Usyk will win rounds early, but I think Joshua is a better boxer than we give him credit for, and I think he'll take Usyk out. I think he'll knock him out clean. I think it'll be very similar, in fact, Joel, to the Alexander Povetkin fight. I'm not saying Povetkin's any worse or any better than Usyk, but in terms of styles, the smaller man, the more accomplished boxer, I think Usyk will be pinching rounds. He'll trouble Joshua, but ultimately Joshua will catch him with something big. He'll hit him like Usyk's never been hit before, and he'll knock him out in round 6, round 7, very similar to the Povetkin fight.
Shake him in his boots, I think, is probably the correct. I think he'll get him somewhere, won't he? And it's boxing Baz. Wilder never trained for the second fight with Fury, so if he trains, then he has a chance.
At 35, 36, are we teaching an old dog new tricks? We know exactly what Wilder's going to come with. He's going to come with a big punch. I mean, I'm not sure if he didn't train. He always looks in half decent shape. He's always got those skiddy legs, but he's always toned. He's always throwing that big right hand. I'm not sure how much training he can do. We know what his party trick is, and it's that big right hand. At 35, 36, I'm not sure how much more he can learn. Yeah,
well, I'm with you, Luke, on this one. I have to say, I think Joshua gets Usyk out, even if it's sort of I think possibly between 6 and 9. I think it'll wear him down. And as you say, as long as he uses that height and reach and the weight advantage, lean into him a bit, make him feel it. I think you get the job done. Dell did it, not as effective, but Dell used his weight and he caused Usyk problems. So I think it's going to be one of those. And Bazers, but Usyk will run all night from AJ. The thing is, if AJ smells blood, he smells a finish. There's no stopping him.
Yeah,
he will take it. I think exciting times ahead, Luke, and 2 big fights out of one that we should have had, but we'll get the one eventually with a bit of luck.
Yeah, that's it. If we get to the end of 2021, Joel, and we've had Wilder Fury 3, Fury win by knockout, Joshua knocks out Usyk, and then we get to late November, early December, and we get Fury Joshua made, and it happens, then we'll look back on 2021 as a great year in the fact that we hit this hitch at this moment where we've not got the fight when we expected it, but it all came full circle in the end. We'll look back on this as a great boxing year. We're going to crown an undisputed champion this weekend. We're going to crown an undisputed champion when Canelo fights Caleb Plant, when Charlo fights Castano. So we've got a lot of things to be excited about in boxing as long as these fights happen. So fingers crossed we get to the end of the year and we look back on this as a very, very good year for boxing.
And Manny Pacquiao's final fight, mate. Final fight.
I still think there's a fight in there with Conor McGregor. We won't count that as a boxing fight, of course, but maybe this is his last hurrah at the top table. But, hats off to him for taking this fight at 42 years of age. It's absolutely unbelievable. And it just pisses in the face of these guys that are avoiding fights. The likes of Bud and Spence that are not fighting each other. The four guys at lightweight with Tank.
He's never dodged one. He's never dodged a fight.
It just it lies in the face of these fights that are not being made. So yeah, hats off to him. He's an all-time great, a literally living legend.
Well, I'll be back tonight. I'm doing the live watch along for Sam Eggington, which is on Channel 5. So I'm just doing the main event on that one. Good luck to Sam. Then I'll be here at 4 o'clock in the morning or 5 o'clock in the morning for Ramirez Taylor.
Have you got Ender on both times?
No, he's not feeling very well. So shout out to Endo. He's a top lad. He's always on it. And I'm sure he'll get up, knowing him. But it's me alone today. So Ramirez Taylor is going to be an absolute cracker. So hats off to both men for taking it. And at the same time, come on, Josh. Come on, Josh.
Absolutely. It's got spicy as well. Have you seen it after the weigh-in and things like that these past couple of days? It seems to be Josh Taylor's way that the couple of days before a fight, the final press conference, the weigh-in, he really gets into the zone and he
switches.
And everybody says they get into that zone and some boxers show it more than others. And Josh Taylor is one of them. It's night and day. He's a great guy. He seems to be a very personable guy. 363 days of the year, but those 2 days before a fight. And I like to see that. I like that raw Scottish aggression. I like Ramirez as well. I think Ramirez's backstory of coming from working in the fields in a family-orientated town, and that
everything. It's got everything. This fight. Yeah. They've both got everything. Is there for different reasons for both of them. And Taylor to have this after 17 fights is unreal. He's going down in history in my eyes, and Guy was come back and put typical Scott. Guy was like that.
If he loses, but he's British when he wins.
He's an Andy Murray.
No, we didn't like Andy Murray.
Luke, it's a pleasure, mate. Absolute pleasure.
Always.
As I say, great fights to be had. I'll get you on nearer the time for some other fights, and we'll do some breakdowns. And roll on tonight, but roll on 24th of July, Las Vegas, when we get to see Fury Wilder 3. We see it again.
But just a quick shout out my sponsors, Clint Patrick, Adrenaline Performance. Joel, thanks for having me on, and anytime, it's always a pleasure.
Honestly, mate, you're a top bloke. Thanks for coming on, and I'll see you soon.
Yeah, enjoy your weekend.
Until then, we're going to have some of this.
You can do it.
Go on then, mate. Until then,
have some of this.
See you later, Luke.
Take care, man. Are you ready?